Okay. Looks like it's time for another 2 p.m. PST Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Road Jim. And today we are going to be getting back into our study of Pega, although I'm having a little bit of trouble bringing up the page right at this moment in time. That's a little interesting. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, last we left off, um, we we finished off the visual data model and the integration designer, but we did not complete the module quiz. So I'm going to go ahead and complete that right now, and then we're going to be going on to the challenge for the for creating the data model. And now they say that it's going to take about 10 minutes. Um, they'll probably finish off the hour for me. Um, I struggled for this module, and I'm afraid that I'm probably not going to do that well um, on the quiz initially. So I'm hoping that I can handle that. But um, if you've been watching me on YouTube and you've been watching my videos, then um, I haven't really been doing very well in terms, for this particular topic. I'm not quite sure exactly where the disconnect is, but um, it feels as though, they're saying one thing but yet, like shortly afterwards they say the exact opposite thing. So maybe it's just my interpretation of it. I'm not 100% sure. Um, you know, I'm most likely I'm gonna have to go back through this and restudy it again because um, I don't know. There's just something about this particular topic that um, I could not understand fully what they were kind of trying to go for on it. Um, and obviously that won't help me out when I go to the certification. For those of you that don't know, if you're watching me for the first time, um, so I'm working towards getting the system architect certification. You can also do the business architect, the low code app builder, and the next mission afterwards is also part of the business architect. So if you're following along with me, you're welcome to do the business architect certification as well. Matter of fact, I'm kind of kicking around the idea of maybe trying to take both. Certification, the certifications for both system architect and business architect. Um, I'm I'm more inclined for doing the system architect. That's where I'd like to be. More of a programming um, more programming jobs. Um, but I mean, if I show that I have a business architect as well, then it shows flexibility, or at least that's how I'm envisioning it. Um, so use this for your own personal review, if anything. Maybe I can give you some kind of insight on it. If you are a trainer, or okay, first off, this is not um, um, I'm not this is not like endorsed or supported by Pega at all. This is my own attempts to get through to the certification. So, so not a sponsored or anything along those lines. So, nor am I a trainer. So, um, if someone I'm going through the missions to get to a point of taking the certification. But obviously, if you want like professional, instructor-led training, then do so. Try to see if you can get into their classes for that. Um, you know, I mentioned before, I was trained once through my uh, my work, but uh, me and a good majority of my class, you might say, did not work well with the trainer, or the trainer was just not. Um, we had some problems with the trainer, and we voiced those concerns on multiple occasions, and um, some of us expressed the desire to maybe take the training, but that was not an option. We were basically forced into contract work almost immediately. So, whatever. Not much I could really do about that. You know. Um, so, um, this is my attempt to try to, um, get my mind back on the certification path and get it to a point where, I'm understanding the material and I can, um, repeat the material to get that certification. Now it's taking a while because I'm doing a little bit more in that, I'm doing these videos. I'm kind of explaining things a little bit more, so it's taking longer. But um, but in some cases, um, sometimes being, I guess, a teacher in a sense, not to say that I am one, but just the idea of um, really going through the material with like a fine-tooth comb can enhance your learning as well. So that's, you know, one, it keeps, the streaming of the Pega Academy is keeping me focused to eventually get the certification. It also, it also feels like, it will give me a little bit more insight, or, it gives me a little bit more, um, to try to like maybe focus down on it a little bit more so that, the material sticks. So, okay. But we're going to get to creating a data model first, and, soon. But first, we need to take on the module for the data model here. So let's go ahead and do the module quiz, test the knowledge. Again, I'm not feeling all that confident about this, but we'll see. There's six questions here. Okay. So, what we got here? The integration designer and integration map for health application is displayed below. Drag the data object name to the appropriate location in the integration map. Okay. So, um, so here's they're giving us the integration designer, okay, and they want us to basically build the integration map based off of the information that they give here. So, we have customer address, we have benefit plan, and we have claims. So, um, now claims over here is a data object. Benefit plan and customer address. Um, so I already know based off this over here, benefit plan has the Pega internal. Okay, so benefit plan has to be there. Okay, it also has the plan benefits. So as you can see, based off our discussion yesterday, it shows a link to both an internal and an external. So um, what's listed inside there, I don't really know. They don't give any like major information about that. But it shows the connection between the two. So you know, kind of wish that that was more in the instructions, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we have customer address with the system record of customer that is external, so we want that. And then we have robotics as external, and it's associated to claims. So that's how it should look. And correct. So that one was an easy one. That one was easy. I didn't really struggle too much with that one. That's fairly easy to kind of see and judge. Which two components do you need to model data? Okay, so um, you don't need external databases to store data. You can have an internal database, so that's not correct. Um, I mean, you can have fields and data objects. Um, Administrator accounts for everyone that contributes to the data model. You shouldn't need that either. So these two should be like the only possible answers here. So I'm going to do feedback, and both of them are correct. Okay. I wanted to make sure about that because I was like going, maybe they were going to say, no, you can't do external databases. But, I mean, you can, but you can have internal databases as well. So, okay, we got that right. Awesome. Okay. You can view and modify the data model from the visual data model or integration map. The visual data model or integration map is a visualization tool that shows the relationships between data objects, data pages, and systems record. Okay. Um, Both of them kind of do the exact same thing, but um, oh gosh. See, this is the one that throws me off because it's like both both can you can see data objects, data pages, and systems record in the visual data model. So that's why I'm thinking that this one is more the visual data model than anything else. Um, because they don't necessarily see like data pages in the integration map. Um, you can see data objects in systems record, but not necessarily data pages. So that's why I'm feeling like this one is the correct answer. Apparently not. Can you see it? Okay. I'm gonna have, like I said, I'm gonna have to relook at this again. Uh, so that would have been a fail, or that that would have been a incorrect answer on the certification. So I can't have too much of those on the certification test. If I get too many of those, then I won't be able to pass. So that's why I need to be, absolutely certain on these questions. If I get too many wrong, then I won't pass the certification, and well, I'll have to restudy and try it all over again. So some I got something confused on the visual data model and the integration map. So I'll have to relook at that again. How do data records relate to an application? Data records and data objects share the same role, which is to provide structure for data pages. I don't believe that's the same, no. Data records must be stored using a database table for local data storage. I'm not sure about that one. Data records provide access to data that is used to process cases but is not part of an application. Not sure about that one. Data records direct how an assignment moves forward. No, that doesn't really make any sense either. Oh boy. Okay. Data records and data objects do not share the same role, so I'm already saying no on that one. That they're not the same. So you know, which is provide structure for data pages. But they added this little addition at the end there to provide structure. But at the same time, ooh, I could see them doing that though. You know, they you could basically say that yeah, data objects and data records provide structure for data pages. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I don't really know the answer to this, folks. I'm really kind of struggling on this one. Um, Data records must be stored using a database table for local data storage. Um, I don't think this is true. Um, I don't know. I don't think you need to store it in a database table for local data storage. I don't know if that's really correct. So I'm kind of saying no on this one. Data records provide access to data that is used to process cases, but is not part of an application. Um, Data records, they have like a, that from my interpretation, which again could be wrong here. Data records is like a listing of data objects. So while they technically do provide access to data, um, there's it, this part right here, whereas is not part of an application. That doesn't that right there, I believe, is the key to why this answer doesn't feel correct to me. Because I mean, if you look at the visual data model or the integration map, it talks about like data objects, and that is part of the application. So, so that's why um, I'm not, I don't think this one is correct. Data records direct how an assignment moves forward. I don't even understand this statement. This statement makes no sense whatsoever. Um, you know, if you're like looking at a case type, then you're looking at like a process or stage or something along those lines. But data records has no direct influence on that whatsoever. So this statement right here also doesn't necessarily make sense. So while I felt like this one was incorrect with the same role, when they said provide structure for data pages, that changed my opinion on it. So I'm kind of leaning towards this one. So, which is incorrect. Okay. 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 The only other one that makes any sense whatsoever is um, the roles for data records and data objects are different. I agree, but you provided you said that, they provide structure, which in the grand scheme of things they do. So, oh well, okay. Data objects provide structure, for what's kind of contained within the objects. They provide, the structure, having fields inside of it, and data records contain all those data objects. So, based off of what I believe is the case. So, while yes, their roles are different, they still provide structure. Now, for data pages, probably not. Um, so yeah. Okay. I'm kind of leaning towards this one. Because here's the thing that I'm thinking about right now. Okay. Um, when you look at the application, you see data objects, right? You see, customer, um, inventory, shops, or whatever, right? Addresses, customers, so on and so forth. Okay, data objects. But what you don't, um, I don't know. It's one of these two, and if I remember correctly, on the visual data model, data records was in the second column. So it is referencing data records, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, technically they would be part of the application, if I remember correctly. Um, but this one here, data records must be stored using a database table for local data storage. I don't know. I don't know about this one because um, so here's the thing. It seemed to me that data records is basically its own like database table in the sense that it has like each object being a row in that table. Um, so you know what? I'm gonna go with this one. I might get it wrong. Okay. In a vendor blank, a blank contains values for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. The blank links the vendor data to external system of record. Okay, so um, the data object contains values for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna make the okay. I might have this backwards, but um, I believe we look at the information for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address on a data page. And therefore, the data record links the vendor data to an external system record. I believe that's true. Apparently not. Okay. Well, it has to be this other one. So, I'm going to try that. Okay. Case ID, update, operator name, and create date time are system fields. Which of the following three actions can you perform in the visual data model? Choose three. Okay. Um, you can add a new field. You can't edit the case ID field. There is no email address field, so you can't delete what's not there. But you can delete the update operator field, and you can um, wait, hold on. Case ID, update operator name, and create date time are system fields. So you can't delete the update operator name field. Um, you know, and you can't edit the case ID field. Um, so even though they don't actually state that there's a phone number and email address field, those are the only other options that you have available here. So it has to be those three. So finish. Yes. I'm feeling that I'm not going to get 100%. Yeah. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. This one was easy. Data objects and fields. That's correct. So, add a new field, delete the email address field, and edit the phone number field. Those are correct. So we move on. We have the benefit plan. We have the claims, and we have the customer address. That's correct. So now we get to the last three, which I was struggling on. So, how do data records relate to an application? Um, I tried this one, and it said that it was wrong. Um, I tried this one for the answer, but I believe I also got that wrong. So we're going to check this one. Okay. It's not part of an application. I was leaning that way, but I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't sure what the visual um, data model was showing. Did it actually contain the data records? And if so, was that um, you know, wasn't that part of the application? But I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'm going to have to look back on the visual data model and see if the data records is being displayed there. And if it is being displayed there, then why are they saying that it's not part of the application? I'll need to look into that a little bit more. Okay. Um, so they said that it's this one, visual data model and integration map. But does the integration map actually have data pages? I mean, I know that it has data objects in systems record, but I'm not 100% sure about data pages. That's what's kind of throwing me off about this one. I know the visual data model has data pages, and I mean it's still a visualization tool. So I don't know. maybe I'm giving it a little, maybe I'm saying, I mean, visual data model. It's visually, you know, something that you can see the data model with. So it, you know, could be considered a visualization tool. So I mean that if they're making that kind of distinction, then they need to change up their um, what they have here a little bit more because this is um, visual data model is still a visualization tool. So I'm gonna have to look into this a little bit more, find out what the heck they're kind of talking about. Okay, and then we get to the last one. Now, I said data object here. A data object contains values for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. Now, the when I pushed feedback, it was saying that that was wrong, which is weird. I don't know, you know, were they showing the fact that, um, that all of them were wrong and that I had to kind of, because I messed up on two of them, or was it the fact that, you know, data object was in the wrong spot? And if that's the case, then where would it be? I mean, I guess you could maybe do that, that, and maybe that, but in a vendor data object, a data page contains values for vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address, but I don't know, that doesn't seem right either. Okay. Okay, I'm confused on this one. A data object contains fields for, for whatever gets contained inside of it. So, so it would have vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. That's not part of a data record. What's going on here, folks? What am I messing up here? Because this is I'm not understanding what they're trying to get at here because it's data object contains the fields. So, and data record, you know, from what I gathered from the module was not um wasn't associated with the values. It was associated with it was associated with the different data objects. It wasn't data record had, references to the data objects, not what was contained inside them. So what's going on? Okay, well, apparently that's the right answer there. So that should give the 100%. Yeah. Okay. I might have to skip out on doing the challenge today because I want to go back over, what's going on here. So, um, so first one was the integration map and the visual, um, integration map is a diagram of the data objects, cases, and systems of record in the application where they are sourced. The integration map can optionally be displayed above the integration designer. The thickness of each line indicates the number of data pages that are sourced from that system record. But it doesn't necessarily show the data pages themselves, though. Okay, this is the integration designer, not the visual um, not the visual data model. So let's skip that. Um, Visual data model is a diagram that shows these links by providing visibility of. Uh, um, okay, wait a minute. Okay, you know what? Let me go back to that module quiz. Okay, and I'm gonna take like screenshots of the questions that I was kind of struggling with. Um, and I want to look up these questions. This one I had no problem with. No issues whatsoever here. So this one isn't that big of a deal. So um, okay, here's one of them. Let's see. I'm gonna put these in their own separate paints. Hold on. Okay, I guess I'll just save these for now. Um, okay. So that I can kind of, redo them over and over and over again. So, or, I can look at them separately. So, um, what the, oh, right. Wrong one there, Jim. Okay. That was the correct answer there. Okay, they said that this is supposedly correct. So let me take a screenshot of that because this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't, you know, based off of what I was seeing before, um, I don't think that's correct. But let me look at it I have the question saved so I can look at it again. So fields and data objects, that was easy one, so we can move on. This one is also an easy one, so we can move on to this one as well. There we go. This one. They have data page here. They had data record there and data object there. And that's supposedly all correct. So I wanna check out this as well because this doesn't seem correct either. But I don't know. We'll have to see. While I say that it doesn't seem correct, they're saying it is, so one would think that, you know, they're correct, and I'm somehow misinterpreting the data. So I need to figure this out. I need to figure out what is going on because um, obviously I'm messing up there. So so we're just gonna return the module. Yes, we're gonna leave the questions. We don't need to worry about, the module quiz. We've already completed it. Um, okay, let me go to the one that was a little bit easier to handle. Um, okay, no, not that one. I'm gonna go with the second question, the visual model data and the integration map. That's the one that I wanted to kind of look in on. So, um, so, uh, you can view and model the data model from the visual data model. I mean, view and modify the data model, sure, but App Studio data pages show how your application uses data and defines the data associated with the data object. Data pages provide links between data records in your application. The visual data model is a diagram that shows these links by providing visibility into the application's data model and how the entities are related. You can update, add, and delete fields when viewing the visual data model. Um, so here you have From the left pane, you can view the case types and data objects. So it has data objects. Okay. You have, um, it said that you can, it's connections to data pages, right? Um, but wait, it's not referencing data pages anywhere in these plus icons, though. Data pages provide links between data records in your application. The visual data model is a diagram that shows these links, providing visibility into the application's data model and how the entities are related. So is it, you know, I'm correct in the idea that, we're seeing both, data objects and data pages in this, correct? In the visual data model? I'm not wrong in that, correct? Um, but systems of record. That's probably where the key is here. The fact that it has the systems of record um, being addressed in the second half. So, in the second half of the question, the integration map is a visualization tool that shows the relationships between data objects, data pages, and systems of record. Systems of record is obviously, one of the key points of this. Nowhere in this diagram do you really see systems of record here. You don't see, is it, do you see the Pega internal? Do you see any external? No, you don't. So that's that's like the key difference between the two is the fact that the visual data model doesn't address the systems of record. It might have the data pages, it might have the data objects, but it doesn't have the systems of record. So, whereas if you go to the um, integration map here, you have the data objects and you have the systems of record. Now, where's the data pages though? That's what kind of threw me off here is the fact that um, you're not seeing like a representation of the data pages other than this statement here of the thickness showing the number of data pages, and that's it. Is that really the only indicator of data pages in this entire thing? Because, I mean, you see in the integration designer, you see data pages here, you know, and how many data pages are there. I was getting the integration designer mixed up with the visual data, you know, um, the visual data model and the integration designer mixed up with each other. You know, um, I thought that this was the visual data model, and I was wrong on that. I need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Um, but the integration map doesn't really have that much in terms of the visualization of data pages either. It's a visualization tool that shows the relationships between data objects, sure. Systems record, sure. Data pages? Not really. So I don't I don't know about this question here. I'm feeling like it's not worded correctly. Um, and that's what was kind of throwing me off with it because in the integration map, sure, that apparently the thickness of the line indicates the number of data pages, but it doesn't show the um, it doesn't show the relationship in with the different data pages. You know, it doesn't show you the data pages anywhere in the integration map, or at least, based off of their example that they're showing here. Now, if there's some way that you can like maybe hover over this line and see the listing of data pages, then sure, but they're not visually showing that. So, I don't know, what's, you know, where the failure is on that. What's the what's going on there. So, I'm not sure about that particular question, or I'm not quite sure about um, that one there. Let's move on to the other questions here. Um, okay, the first question that I was looking at there, the first one that I copied was, how do data records relate to an application? Data records provide access to data that is used to process cases, but is not part of the application. So let's look at the. I know I'm running a little bit, well, I'm definitely running behind because, I was wanting to get to the challenge, but I mean, obviously the module quiz took their time. So, okay. So, data records. Are they part of the application or not? Um, Applications require access to data that is used to process cases, but it is not directly part of the application. Data records provide values for the fields associated with a particular data object and can be stored outside the case. As a result, you can widely reuse and reference data records. Okay, so, you know, already at the very beginning here, they're saying, it's not directly part of the application. Um, you can reuse data records and so on and so forth. So, um, provide access to data that is used to process cases. Um, but their wording is a bit rough here because so if you look here, there's um, let's kind of compare the two, right? Um, it says here applications require access to data that is used to process cases, but is not directly part of the application. But it says here data records provide access to data that is used to process cases but is not part of an application. It's almost word for word this first sentence, but they've basically removed some of the words there and replaced it with data records. And it's like, you didn't. I mean, you can imply that, but if you're gonna like reuse the statement again in a question, make sure that use it exactly. I don't know. Let's see. So so here's the thing that's throwing me off about it. Okay, they specifically said data records provide access to data. While here they say data records provide values, you know, data records provide values for the fields uh, associated with the particular data object. Okay, so in one instance they're saying, hey, we're providing you exact information, and the other they're saying, hey, we're providing access to that information. They're not always the same, so I don't, yeah. Nuances in the language here is throwing me off here. Um, you know, you're not specifically stating that data records are providing access, but are you? I don't know. Okay, but data records are not part of an application. Sure. Well, I mean, they don't even necessarily state that outright either. Um, in this, no, you can't really even see my cursor here, can you? Sorry about that. Um, nowhere in here do you absolutely see that, data records are not directly part of the application. Once again, you can try to imply just for that first statement there and what comes afterwards, but I don't know. Again, this question isn't, well, I guess it isn't technically wrong, but at the same time, um, it feels like they're skipping a step between step A and step C. Okay, it's like they're going from step A to step C, but they're skipping step B. And that's what's throwing me off about it. It's like, show the link between the two here, you know. Um, you know, like applications often require access to data that is used to process cases but is not directly part of the application. State right after that, data records provide that access. Done. Simple. And then you can move on with everything else. You know, that's probably what I would do, you know, to show, hey, there's that correlation between, you know, what you're trying to go for here. So, you know, we'll move on. We'll move on. And we had question number 3. A vendor data object. A data record contains values for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. The data page links the vendor data to an external system record. Okay, so first off, let's look at the data page, um, which I think is in the next topic. Yeah. Um, Data pages provide links between data records and your application. Hold on a second. A data page defined for a customer data object identifies how to connect to the system record and what fields to map in the data object. Okay. I mean, I guess this is true. It's They're not outright stating it though, and that's what's throwing me off about it. Um, you know, you don't have like a word for word answer here, so the data page links the vendor data to an external system record. But I'm kind of curious. The application sources customer information from an external system record using the customer data object. So, I mean, you could imply that the data object is the one that handles the link between um, the vendor data and the external system record just based off of that statement alone. But in the next one here, a data page defined for the system customer data object. It identifies how to connect to the system record and what fields to map in a data object. So the data page links the vendor data to an external system record. So yeah. Um, But here's the thing. Here's what I'm kind of curious about. Does it have to be external? If a data page can be linked to, you know, the internal, then this statement is incorrect. I mean, best completes the sentence? Sure, kinda. The data page links the vendor data to an external system record. But I mean, I could say the exact same thing about the data object here based off of this line. I could make the same exact statement about that. You know, I'm seeing here that hey, you're using the Pega database. Pega database is not an external system or record. So I mean that right there seems like it conflicts with the second half of that statement right there with the data page, right? I don't know. I'm 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 already looking at this module going, well, what the hell's going on here? Like I said, if anybody from Pega or Pega Trainer or someone like that can provide answers to me about this, I would greatly appreciate it. And it might handle other people's confusion about this particular subject as well. Either their use of the wording here is leaving it ambiguous and full of possibilities that I'm making these interpretations out of it and getting them wrong, which doesn't help me for the certification. Um, or they really need to, or I don't, I don't. Okay. Let's move on to, or let's move on to the first part of the statement, which is a vendor data object, or in a vendor data object, a data record contains values for the vendor ID, customer and vendor name, and vendor address. So, um, okay, there's a data object for airports. Each airport includes a value for airport code, city, and country. The values in the airport data object do not vary among case types. In this example, only user-selected airport code and location information is added to and persisted with the case. After adding data records to a data object, you can reference the data object in a form. By default, the data records display in a selectable drop-down list. When the option is selected, the associated values can be displayed in the form as shown in the following image. Was I getting them wrong in reverse? are they basically stating that data records and data fields are the same? Am I hmm. Data objects represent key business entities such as customers. Data objects contain all the fields necessary to describe an object. For example, an identifier, name, address, and date of account creation describe a customer, which is, this, you know, contains values for vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. That seems like that should define a data object, would it not? Generally, a change in data record values does not need an associated change in the business process to support the change, whereas a change in the data object fields represents a change in the business processes. For example, adding a new customer is part of the standard business process. Adding a new customer level, for example, Platinum, results in modification of the business processes to manage the Platinum customers. Hmm. Okay, wait a minute. So I'm looking at their visual here. Okay. And this might be the reason why I'm not getting it, or why what I'm missing here between the two. So maybe, please please correct me if I'm wrong. A data object is just something that states that, hey, we have an airport, you know, like, this one example up here, you know, data object for airports, right? So the object contains the values of ID, name, and country, but it doesn't actually contain any values inside of that object. It's just containing the fields inside of it. Okay, meaning that um, it's kind of like a structure, you might say. I mean, in a sense, kind of is, but um, in that you know, I don't have any information contained within it at this particular moment in time. I'm just defining the name of the object and the names of the fields contained within said object. But I'm not changing the information available. I say that because if you look down here on the add record, okay, this adds, a new line here that can, add in a new ID, add in a name, and add in a country. So, adding a record um, is providing the information in each one of the variables within the data object. Not necessarily stating that, hey, this is the ID, this is the name, this is country, this is stating, the value, Vancouver, and Canada for this one particular record. So, in a vendor data object, a data record contains values for the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. So the data object still contains the ID, name, and address as variable types, but the data record contains the values for that particular data object. So it makes sense. The word the wording once again is can be confusing. Um, if they did something along the lines of change it around so where it's like in a vendor data object which contains the values vendor ID, vendor name, or not contains the values, um, which gives which um, provides the um, hmm, what's the they don't really state what what these are. Like, in any kind of programming language, you typically, refer to these values as like, variables, you know, depending on the language you use, obviously, some languages might have them by a different name. Okay. Um, but so far from what I've seen, Pega doesn't really have that. Um, So, I would almost say, in a vendor data object with the variables vendor ID, vendor name, vendor address, a data record contains the values or those values or their values or something along those lines. So, you can reword it a little bit better to give the clarification that the vendor data object you know, is the one that has the ID name and address, but not the values contained within it. So, okay. So I got tripped up by the questions and answers in the module, and that's a problem for the certification. Okay. I have to be really careful when it comes to answering these questions. If I get you know when I take the you know here, like, here we are at the module quiz, right? And when you click on start, you go into the quiz itself. But here's the thing: in the certification, you don't get a feedback. There's no feedback here. So if I put these all in the wrong spots and I click finish, they're gonna mark it wrong and say, hey, you messed up here, or you didn't answer the question correctly, so therefore you know you missed that question. There's no feedback in the certification test. So you know when you take the test, when you take the certification test, you want to you know you're going to need to look at this and go, you know data records provide access to data that is used to process cases but is not part of an application. You have to get that in your locked in your mind because there's no feedback. You're not going to be able to click feedback on the certification test. So if you miss that, then that obviously just harms your overall percentage. And they are very nuanced with their um, language here. So, I mean, obviously some questions can be really easy, you know. So, um, so there's obviously, those benefits, but don't expect it all to be easy. You know, read the question thoroughly. You know, are system fields. So therefore, editing a case ID field or deleting, you know, a system field is not possible. So already, those two right there, not possible. So you're left with the other three, like automatically. So you cannot edit a system field, you cannot delete a system field. So yeah, there you go. This one is probably gonna trip me up probably a few times. So a data object contains the vendor ID, vendor name, and vendor address. A data record contains the values of that data object. So contains the values such as 12345 Bob and Walla Walla, Washington. You know. Now this data page links to a vendor data into the external system record. That's suspect. Because I could say the exact same thing for a data object. Plus, it doesn't always link to an external system record. You know, it could link to an internal system record just by the fact that they reference the Pega um, system record. So I don't know. This last sentence there is a little off. Um, the integration map, it doesn't show data pages, or it doesn't really show relationships in the data pages, so this doesn't feel right. Um, view and modify the data model, sure, I guess. I mean, that, and the visual data model doesn't have systems of record, so, visual data cannot be here just because it, has no, um, it does not show systems of record. So it has to be in this one spot here. Okay, and you can view and modify the data model with a visual data model. Okay, it's this last statement here. Now if this right here was changed to cases, which is what they which is what they talk about for the integration map, then this statement would be correct. Easily, easily correct. Data pages is what throws it off. So it's right, but yet at the same time it's not right in that it doesn't necessarily show the relationship, with the data pages. It shows that there's data page, that there's plenty of data pages in there, but it doesn't show the relationships. So that's why this wasn't exactly correct. So, okay. Um, Sorry about taking such a long time on this one. I knew that I was going to struggle with this particular module. Um, you know, um, this this module was tough. This module was rough for me. So um, I'm most likely going to need to come back to it and reference it over and over and over again because obviously data records is common, or um, using, retrieving, sending data. This is all part of just overall programming anywhere. Anybody that has a database is gonna be needing you to understand what how to handle data records, data objects, just data modeling in general. So um, yeah. So this was a struggle for me. Um, Sorry I couldn't get to um, the challenge. Um, I'll tackle that tomorrow. Um, but yeah. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and like make a note, you know. Um, let's see. Let me make a note here. Uh, okay. So I know that I can come back to it at a later time. Like when we get down here to the mission test, I'm afraid that when I try to take this, I'm probably going to be missing a few questions from the data model. So I may need to, when we do get down here, I may need to go back to the data model first to go back through I need to go back through it, and try to reinforce my understanding of the data model. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can help me out by providing answers to my questions or try to help clarify, what, where's, can you figure out my disconnect on some of, my troubles with the data model? Um, you know, maybe you're like, Jim, you're just being stupid. Just read the material. It's right there. Um, but maybe you can maybe explain it in a different way so that I can understand what they're trying to say because it feels like like I mentioned before, um, it feels like what they're saying and what they're showing is exact opposites. So I'm not 100% sure on that. So okay, so well, apologies on on not getting to the challenge. I'll cover that tomorrow. These videos will be uploaded to my YouTube channel, so feel free to check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Um, check out the rest of my Pega um, study compilation. I also have others playlists for all the gaming that I do as well. So if that interests you, feel free to check those out. I know I got plenty, and I'm still dropping videos in there. Matter of fact, that's where I'm gonna go right now. I'm gonna start working on uh, submitting some more videos to be released. So, but that's it. I want to thank everybody for stopping on by and lurking, but we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. For those of you still watching on Twitch, stick around. Um, I'll still be here for a while. So take care, everybody.